Hi, I'm the Goddess of Awesome, and I wanted to make a quick little video just to say a few things about my brother. Okay, I know that if any of you have watched the compassion video from man hater to man healer, then you've heard some of my story. And what I want to say about my brother is that, you know, we're in our 30s now. He's in his 40s, but early 40s, and I'm in my late 30s, and we are the best of friends. Okay, nothing short of a miracle that we have gotten to that square. Really, the work was all done on my side. I mean, hopefully he has released some things. I know for a fact he still beats himself up. You know, he definitely still beats himself up. He's cried a few times in my presence. So sad still that anything like that had ever happened between us as children. So what I want to say is, with children, you know, we learn things, right? Little children are sponges, and my brother had learned some behavior. He had this situation happen to him, right? Somebody molested my brother. A male, someone in the family, not our dad because he wasn't around. Somebody did things to my brother, touched him. I don't know everything that went on, but I do know my brother was molested. So what happened is, after, you know, he's a little kid, he's 4 years older than me, but at that time that happened, you know, what do children do sometimes, right? He came home, or he then acted it out, what he had learned, on the next person closest to him, which was his little sister. You know, I was 4. And I remember just thinking it was a game, right, for a long time, until I got into grade school. And then you kind of hear, you know, from older kids, certain things about it, you know. People call sex it. They're doing it, you know, it. So I remember being in grade school, learning about it. And then I realized that it wasn't okay. I mean, it never felt completely okay. But you know, I thought it was a game as a little kid. You know, what do you know as a kid? You don't know much. Parents don't talk about sex when you're 3 and 4. They almost should, because how many of us have been molested from the time we're 2 or 3 or 4 or 7 or 9? You know what I mean? Like, children are not immune to adults preying on them, and children are not immune from other children acting out behaviors that they have learned elsewhere. Okay? So in my healing process, when I realized that my brother, you know, as messed up as the whole situation was, when I finally came to the place where I could actually consider forgiveness, you know, that was a huge place, a huge big step to get to. And when I finally got there, you know, part of what helped make it easier or possible to forgive was the understanding that, you know what? My brother also went through something similar. Now, I don't think his abuse lasted as long as mine did. You know, I'm 4 to 14. His was probably briefer, you know. But doesn't matter. The duration really is irrelevant, because it doesn't matter if it's a minute or if it's a decade. The damage is done. You know what I mean? And it can matriculate down the line, continuing to damage others. So when I took when I got to the acceptance and acknowledging space that was leading me towards forgiveness, which I didn't know. I didn't know forgiveness was coming. I had no idea. But it was easier for me to mentally digest things, knowing that my brother was just behaving in ways that he had learned from somebody else, right? It was pretty messed up that he had to learn that somewhere, and that he went and decided to matriculate it, right? It went travel down the way. to his little sister. You take a few more steps down that path, and I started to consider, well, jeepers creepers. So the person who did it to my brother, what the hell's his story, right? So once I started to get into that aspect of the person who did it to my brother, guess what I discovered? The person who did it to my brother, a male in my family, who's not my dad, that person also had sexual abuse happen to him, okay? When he was little. So, but it was from a neighbor, okay? It was from a neighbor 2 houses down. So, sexual abuse doesn't just happen within the family core. I mean, it happens a lot within the family core. But it's also the people who are around you. You got to be so careful who you leave your kids with. I'm sure my grandmother probably used the neighbors as a babysitter sometime, or maybe my grandmother's children, right, my aunts and uncles, just ended up over at the neighbor's house one day playing in the backyard. It's a different day. People went outside back in the day, right? Not as much as they do now, unfortunately. We should all go outside more. But so this family member had it had done to him. Then he does it to my brother does it to me. It's really hard to be mad when you realize where it came from. So let's just pretend my brother just out of the blue decided to do this and he'd never learned it anywhere else. That would be awful and extra creepy, right? It really would. That's creepy enough. But considering the idea that he learned it somewhere, that he was shown this behavior, that these behaviors happened to him. It happened to him. He didn't choose it. He was a little kid. He had probably been 7 years old. Maybe he was 8. I was only 4. So who knows how long it had happened to him. Did it go instantly? Did it happen to him and instantly he came and did this with me? Or did it happen and then a year later it came over this way, or 6 months later? I mean, we'll never know. But what I'm trying to say is that sexual abuse is more prevalent than we realize. No one wants to admit that we're surrounded in it, okay? So many children. I wish I could save them all. I wish I could just go scoop them up, and take them to my energy healer. Put some good words in their mind, empower them to help release. As little kids, they're not equipped to use their words as best they can, right? Their rational mind isn't going to come in until they're a young teenager. They have some kind of rational mind, but you don't really fully develop your mind all the way until you're fully developed. As a little kid, furthest thing from your brain is thinking about sexual energy. Not that sexual energy can't happen to kids. It totally can, but I don't know about the acting out on each other, So sexual abuse can happen from outsiders. It can happen from inside your family. It can be grown-ups to little kids. It can be little kids to little kids, or a slightly older kid with a littler kid. Or let's leave room for all things. It could be a little kid on a bigger kid. You know what I mean? You never know what's driving somebody. So when it comes time for release work and healing, for me, it was liberating, realizing that my brother was also a victim, because then I could not fault him as much, Trust me, I've given him plenty of fault, and I've pointed fingers for a lot of years. I don't do that, no. Now I just feel sorry that he had to go through what he went through. I'm sorry that the person who did it to him had to go through what he went through. No doubt they probably haven't had someone come talk to them like I'm talking to you right now, and creating a space where we can discuss this and get it out in the open. When you air it out, you diffuse it. It diffuses the energy. So I just want to say that my brother is a great man. Okay, my brother is a beautiful soul. He's a simple man. He's not a complicated person, right? He needs things extra simple. But he's tender. Deep inside, my brother is a very tender soul. And he would sooner hurt an inanimate object than he would ever hurt a person, you know, or an animal, you know. He'd beat up a wall before he hurt anybody, you know. So, and I wish my dad was around more for him. I think my brother definitely needed a father. Girls need dads too. No doubt I probably could have used my dad too, but boys really need their dad. And the next person in line to help my brother maybe kind of be that figure, that's the person who molested him. So that's pretty messed up, you know. That one solid male figure he had wasn't solid at all, you know. But he also, you know, the next generation up who did it to my brother, he had it done to them. So I think it'd be interesting, you know. Obviously I can't follow this, I can't trace it anymore. I've traced it as far as I could, right? It was from, you know, the person who did it to me had someone do it to them, and that's all in the family. But the person who did it to the person who did it to my brother, they weren't in our family. So I almost wish I could find them and be like, so you did this to my uncle, who did it to you, and who did it to them? You know, it's so unfortunate that it matriculates down the line, right? It's people, you know, you learn it and then you continue the abuse, like mindlessly, I think, without even considering the damage you're doing, you know? So here's something interesting I want to share really fast, and then I'll close this video. When I was little, 6, 7, and 8, you know, when we lived with my grandma from the time I was 6 to 10, okay? Like, my dad was in prison when I was 2, so my mom did the best she could for a long while, and then by the time I was 6, we're at grandma's house. And my aunt used to come down from Northern California. She had ponies. She was definitely my favorite aunt. I'm definitely a horsey girl, and so fondest memories of my aunt's house in the summer times, riding her ponies with my cousins who were about my same age, and my favorite cousins and my favorite aunt, just loved them, and they would come down to visit sometimes, you know. And the girls and my sister, we would all giggle so much, so they would just separate us, right? We couldn't sleep together. We would never sleep. We'd just giggle and giggle. But my cousin, who was the youngest, he was a boy, and I remember him being about 4. So here I was 7, he's about 4, 3 maybe. He could have even been 2.5 during, you know, we were there a few years. So they would put him in bed with me. And I remember being in bed with my little cousin, who was a boy, having these thoughts go through my mind. Like thoughts that I could do it to him, you know? Or impulses that, oh, I could do it to him. Now, even though the mental thought was there, you're right, the awareness was there in my mind, as a little kid, I didn't have a strong sexual current. I mean, kids can feel sexual energy sometimes, but I think it's a flash, you know. It happens quickly. It doesn't come back. I don't know. Every person's different. For me, I didn't have an underlying sexual need to fill. You know, what was going through my head was learned stuff, right? It was images of things that I had learned. And I remember considering that I could do this to my cousin, you know, but that underlying current, that drive, I didn't have it, you know. So to do that to my cousin, first of all, it never happened because I didn't have the drive, right? It was possible. It possibly could have happened. In my mind, it crossed through a couple times, but I never acted on it. I never went through with it. I never impositioned him. I never did that to him. And isn't that a beautiful gift? You know, isn't that an amazing thing that a little kid could choose not to go there, right? When your brain is kind of not necessarily suggesting it, but the vision is there, the idea is there. So it takes a really strong soul, I think, to stop it, right? To be that system buster, to be the renegade who just goes against. And for me, not to take what I knew and act out on my cousin, that was so significant. And I'm so glad I didn't do it. Because at this stage in the game, with me being a grown-up and, you know, our rational minds come in as we're a teenager, I probably would have felt so guilty my entire life. It is so fantastically fabulous that I don't have guilt there because I never touched my cousin in that way, you know? So I'm sharing this only to let you know that it happens, okay? It happens with kids. They do it to each other. Grown-ups can do it to kids. It happens way more than anybody ever would want to admit out loud, you know? And just because you come from a good family or a wealthy neighborhood or a pristine church or, you know, you name it, there is no family on this planet who is immune to this, okay? And it is so prevalent. I think what needs to happen is we just need to get it out and talk about it. I think it needs to be aired out. And if there's any individuals who have had abuse, who kind of are, you know, it's crossed their mind, you know, seek some kind of counsel. Or if you're too embarrassed to do that, go into the woods and have a conversation with nature. It's amazing how much nature can help. You know, you can talk to a tree. Don't giggle, but you can. And it, put your hand on it and feel its energy. It's a living creature. You know, you can dispose verbally anything you need to say to a tree and put your hand on it. Maybe you could even hug it. I mean, obviously you don't want ants and stuff crawling on you after a while, and who knows what's on the tree. Not that trees are dirty, but, you know, nature. But, you know, touch it and put at least one hand on it and just let it out, you know. I feel like when we hold things in, that's when it festers. And so releasing it, verbalizing it, so powerful to get that process started, you know. And the process of healing, it's different for each person. Will you be healing your whole life? Probably. You know, there's always another level. But the knit grit work, that only lasts for so long. You only have to really focus on whatever was ugly in your life until it fades away. And then after it fades away, healing everything else is just so much more easier. Also, because you already have the know-how, right? You went through the process already. So I'm going to share something with you really fast. Just struck me. I'm going to share it with you right now. It could help some people. So if you're into words of power, or if you want an idea, if you want maybe something to help you get started, releasing things and getting things that don't serve you out of your energy field, these are some great words, okay? I love these words. They help me so much. These were the first powerful words I came across. I release and let go of all things, and all things release and let go of me. I release and let go of all things, and all things release and let go of me. Just keep saying that to yourself. You know, if you're a hurt person and you're hurting, just keep saying that. You might have visions come through your mind's eye. You might have certain people flash through your mind's eye as you're saying this. Just say it. Just keep saying it and just keep releasing, right? That's those people leaving. That's their energy getting out of your energy field. I release and let go of all things, and all things release and let go of me. Probably one of the most liberating set of words I could ever share. So please take that as a healing gift. And I wish everybody the very best. And I just want to say it one more time that my brother is an amazing guy, and I'm so glad that we have a mended and healed relationship. Like, he calls me his best friend, you know, at this point in life, and he's definitely a best friend of mine. So nothing short than a miracle, you know, from a person who couldn't be in the same room with him to now we have been on a family vacation together and had to sleep in the same room, and I was fine. I was totally okay. No anxiousness or, you know, deep-rooted fear that I couldn't sleep, you know. So, healing is possible, and you know, until we get all these topics out, it's just going to be, we just need to talk about it. That's the first step, you know, acknowledging it. So with that said, please be well. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'm sure I'll have some more topics for you soon. I'm the Goddess of Awesome. Thank you so much.